I figured I don't feel like going out here and doing nothing tonight. So I'm going to probably, when I get home, I'm going to probably do an edit to some of my videos. So if you like my content that I'm putting out today, I'll put a link. Make sure you support the girl. Because I'm just like, I can just talk. Say they prefer to live by themselves because they've been hurt, they've been abused. So what is really going on here? And then now you have men who are, they're upset about, how the standards of certain women, and so they're going places, and other women are going places. Everybody is searching for somebody, you know. That's all I can honestly say to that. I mean, everybody is literally searching for Miss Right, Mr. Right. And I think at the end of the day, like, people really genuinely want to be loved. They really do. But it's just, like I've said in my other videos, it's a lot of confusion out here. So, how do you know when that person is the right person? Honestly, I think you can go with your gut on it. But again, like all my other videos, I usually say is that you can tell the tree by the fruit that it bears, because that's what scripture says. You'll know them by the way they walk, they talk, and you'll know them by what they do. You'll know if this person is about their word, because they usually keep it. So I know it's really frustrating for some of y'all out here, because you just can't seem to find that one. And that other person that is meant for you, I just feel like there's so many barriers. That's the reason why y'all not connecting out here. But if I have to give you some advice, and this is the advice that I'm giving you, is that you have to look at it like exercising. You say you want to be healthy, you want to be fit. What's the first thing you do? You start to prep of doing exercising, and you start eating healthy. And then after 30 days, you'll start to see the results. Even if you started doing like 50 crunches every day, you'll see the difference within 30 days. So I feel like if you are attracting the same type of men, or they just don't seem to, you got to switch it up. Stop looking for those particular men, or stop looking for those particular women. Like, I saw this guy, he put a podcast out there where somebody asked these young women, it was really a vulgar question to ask women, and they answered it, but it was just really disgusting, what the question was. And the guy whose content, he was like, is that what females are doing? First of all, I'm like thinking to myself, excuse me, sir, those two right there look like they're in their 20s, okay, maybe 19, 18. They look like they could be your kids, okay? So for you to get upset because of the young mindness of them and what they say out their mouth, but look at what the dude asked them, But I don't understand why men. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep it real. So this guy had content about women who talked about the smells of their genitalia. I know that sounds like very vulgar, but the guy who questioned them was like, do you have, I don't even know how he even got on that question. And they were like, no, it doesn't, my cookies don't smell like that unless I was driving around, or yeast infection. They just started saying some vulgar things out their mouths. And I was, I clutched my pearls. Like, what is the world coming to, where you got a grown man, and he looked like he was in his 20s, and he asked them a question like that? Most women, a real woman would have said, excuse me, sir, I decline to ask that question. Please come correct with me and respect me when it comes to your interviewing. Don't ask me no nastiness like that. I'm not an anything woman. I'm a lady. Okay? But he asked them that question and they was giggling. It was like, nah, my stuff don't whatever unless I was driving around or unless you had, they just started to go whatever with it. But the guy content who was putting this video out there, he basically took these two young girls that looked like they were like in college, and he basically made them the billboard for all women. And I'm looking at this man and like, you a grown man, you know daggone well that these little girls could be your daughter's age, okay? So stop playing these games and thinking that all women are like that. Why are you always focusing on those type of women? How come you never go on the other side of the seat, the other side of the fence where you see the women with the classy hats sipping on tea? Why do y'all always bring up the derogatory women and always paint as if these are the only type of women out here? So the reason why I bring this up is because some of you are trying to figure out, how do I find Miss Right or Mr. Right? Number one, are you ready to date the type of woman that you are seeking? And are you ready to have the certain type in your life that you are seeking? Because some of y'all, I notice somehow to express yourself without screaming. Some of y'all need to work on yourselves before you invite somebody else in your life. And then you cannot be looking in places where okay, you keep going to the same old grocery store and you complaining because things aren't fresh. Well, then go somewhere else. Go to Mom's Organic. Go to Harris Teeter's. Go to another grocery store versus your mart that's around the way. You get what I'm saying? And there you'll find more fresh produce. You get my hint? There you'll find better quality of men and women. And I'm not saying grocery stores, but you get what I'm saying. You got to go to a place where, people aren't so deluded in selfishness of self. They're not sexualized. Because some people, like, where you can really sit down and have a conversation. I say this: if a man can sit with a woman and have a real conversation with her, and y'all really be interacting back and forth, that's a good start right there. Because if you can't have a conversation with somebody, or when they come out their mouth, they always cussing, and you don't even see past that, the only thing you look at is her body, but you're not paying attention to her mouth, something is wrong with you, okay? So if you're looking for a virtuous woman, you have to start by her mouth. Because what she says out of her mouth, her heart speaks. And it's the same thing with the man too. Listen to what he says out of his mouth. Okay? Some people give you a telltale sign off the break if they're even great quality for you to even think if they're going to be Mr. or Mrs. in your life. Most people date to see whether or not they're going to spend the rest of their life with a person. And a lot of folks who say, not me, that's because the majority of y'all got married already, and y'all still have unfinished business to do with your husband or your wife. But y'all don't want to discuss that, but that's a whole nother video. It can be absolutely issue. Oh man, I didn't even get a chance to send that stuff out today. The issue is that people change. You can meet somebody at the beginning and things can be wonderful, but on the way, on that ride, it may not turn out to be what you wanted, or it may just turn out to what you want. But I think what the first, I should have known by date again. Does he know how to talk? Does he complain all the time? That's a telltale sign of someone who's just always going to bring you down and just basically suck the energy out. Tell sign to see whether or not this individual, whether or not this man can keep a job. Is he working, or is he just pursuing a dream? And don't get it twisted, men can they can work and pursue a dream at the same time. But a man don't work, he don't eat. That's what the Bible says, okay? I'll also look at his background too. I think a lot of the things, a lot of the background in a man can situation, like whether or not if his father and his mother, like what is his family structure like. A man with family structure would try to keep that family structure because he grew up on with a family, a structured family, meaning mom and dad was in the household, or he had a sense of family. Because somebody who's a loner will just be a loner, and they'll be quick to leave you and roll alone because they've always been a loner. I will also, if I could date again, I will also see how long this person would get irritated with not, how can I say it? I will honestly say, if you're looking for a successful, and I mean a successful dating experience, is that celibacy, not allowing any type of intercourse to ruin the quality time that you're going to spend with that individual person. I think that's a huge, that's one of the main issues that put a damper or put the flame out, is once you give it up. You got to sustain from having sex until you get married. Or it's okay to be in a relationship, and what I mean by that is like going out and courting and and just sustaining from sex. I can't even, like, that is the ultimate goal, and that goal is not supposed to happen until you get married. So I think that having somebody that's on the same page of enjoying each other company, going places, until the right time, I think that right there is just going to make it just as memorable and special. But so many people give up their body so quickly. It's like, why even fight for something that you already had? You already had it, so it's no point of you thinking about it. And then some men feel like I can come and go as I please to get it. So my best advice for you women out there, and if you say, well, it's hard, number one, hold up. Who's saying it's hard? Who's saying it's hard? It's not hard. Okay? It's not hard to sustain from sex. That's when you're going to know whether or not this person is going to really love you for you or love you for your body. Because and then you got to think about it. Do you remember the time when you saw a woman or saw a man and you just got butterflies and you were so taken away by this person, and then their personality was so like that when y'all hooked up for tea or coffee or for a movie or for dinner, you enjoyed every bit of conversation with that person. Like, you analyzed every word, and it was so memorable. You know what I mean? It was just that memorable. And the pressures on what I'm trying to say is, don't give up the cookies. If you want a man's time, and if you want a woman's time, and you want to spend quality time of getting to know each other, do not have sex. That right there is going to have you having a great experience with one another without interrupting it with something that shouldn't have been involved with. You got to take it back in the day. Now, remember, I was telling you, you have to go and look for good quality foods, like you would go to like a better grocery store or farmer's market versus like the roundaway store, whatever like that. If you want a better quality relationship, you have to have a healthy relationship. And with that, you have to go back where people sustain from any sexual activities until they got married. And some of you may say, well, I don't want to get married, but just don't have sex. Just don't have sex. Don't do nothing. And some of y'all need to like really fast, because you have really indulged in immoralities and sexual behaviors that you just don't even know how to act when you come across the opposite sex. So I would honestly say, if you want it memorable, sustain from it. Go out for coffee, go out to a movie, something fun, and make it so innocent that it's wonderful. You can have a wonderful life of bliss that does not have to involve things that shouldn't be involved until later on down the line. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but if you are looking for a more healthier relationship, you're going to have to be you're going to have to sustain from things like that. Okay. Why can't I see this thing behind me? Okay, now I can see. Yeah, you're going to have to sustain from things like that. Far as the men, I will honestly say is you need to judge a woman by what she says out of her mouth. Look how she carries herself. Look how she carries herself. Nastiest things out of their mouths, or I'm like, what made you say that? Or they say the most, and I'd be like, ugh, that made you look ugly. That wasn't nice. So men, you need to really look at that and not settle for someone who is just a loose cannon. You know what I mean? But at the same time, the advice that I'm giving out are for single folks that are really looking for someone that they can potentially be with. And also, too, if a woman is throwing herself at you, that's a telltale sign. You need to get the heck out of there. Also, too, you got to look at her resume. Has she ever been married before? I'm not saying don't discredit a woman who has children, because there are women out here who have children but never been married before, and they still looking for love. But I'm trying to tell you, if you take on a woman who has a package, then you're taking on that entire package. And if you're not ready to make that commitment, then I wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole, because those children are going to be affected if you come in their lives and you leave out of their lives. You get what I'm saying? So you don't want to be somebody that just messed with their mama and now you're out. I had a friend who asked me about, he kind of had his eyes on a woman who moved into his building, and he told me that the woman had like 4 children or 5 kids. And I was like, well, have she ever been married before? And he was like, no. And I said, well, how old is her youngest? And he told me how old the youngest was. And I think the youngest was like maybe 2. But the baby father was just over there. I said, no, don't deal with it, because she's still in a relationship with her youngest father. And you don't want to get caught up in any of that. And this is not to block and be like, nah, she need to close that door before she opens up a new one. So I can honestly say that some of y'all need to close the door before you open up a new one. You got too much stuff, and then you sit up here and fall in love with somebody, or you winging somebody else along, but your heart is still with somebody else that you're secretly hoping that you're going to get back together with. You got to make sure you get rid of the old person. You got to make sure you get rid of the old person before you start wanting to bring on a new boo. You do. You really do. That lady got the earrings that I'm trying to get. I can see those earrings from all over here. So what did we say? So number one, you gotta close that old door before you open up a new one. Okay. You also have to, just by all means, if you're trying to look for a really good relationship, don't have sex. Sustain from sex. Like, put that, like, I cannot emphasize how important that sex thing is. Like, if you want a man's time, somebody that's going to be like, oh, let me, mature, you have to sustain from. Don't be that type of woman, and don't be that type of man. Like, really, if you want to start off with a clean slate, you want a healthy relationship, start it off healthy and right. If I would, the things that I know now, if I would have knew that back then. Also, like I said, you got to look at the character of a man. Like, how kind is he? His family structure. Does he have a family structure? Is he more into his cars and his body versus helping a cat or a dog? You got to look at it and see whether or not this person has vanity written on. You definitely want to stay away from that. You wanna stay away from that. Okay, not everybody, just because he look cute and he dressed to the T's, then that may be his kryptonite. And if he worries so much about him, or he vanity has consumed him, then where do you stand in this man's life? Is he kind? You don't want to be dealing with somebody that's going to be screaming at you or ready to put their hands on you. You definitely want to stay away from a narcissistic man. And there are a lot of them out here. So those are the things that I will honestly say. One of my biggest things is that when you're finding Miss Right or Mr. Right, you definitely, one of the biggest things that I will honestly say on that list is that you have to sustain from sex. Some people are like, it's natural. No. So if you want a long-lasting relationship where you're able to communicate without having the, that's when things are really gonna, a lot of people, and I know that everywhere you look, it's like they shove it down your throats that you have to sleep with someone, and now they say it so nonchalantly, but that's not a natural thing. Like, that's not, what I mean by a natural thing is that is not something that you're supposed to be entertaining until you're married. And that's the reason why we got failed relationships left to right, because people are jumping over the fence before you didn't even get in the house yet. You've already explored stuff that you're not even supposed to. And I know that's really hard, but I will honestly say that you have to sustain from sex, especially if you're looking to enter into a healthy relationship. And if you say, well, what if he doesn't want to, then he's not the one. What if she doesn't want to, then she's not the one. That's it. The whole purpose of this talk is finding the one. Also, too, there are, knowing what you want out there. I really believe that when God created man, he also created woman. And I believe that for every man that is born, there is a woman out here for him. I believe that. But I do believe that a lot of people have been tainted and subjugated to what people are doing today, and it's just unhealthy. So anyway, I really hope and pray that you guys can take what I just said, but I cannot stress, I know I sound like auntie, but I cannot stress how important it is to sustain until you get married. And I know some of y'all like whatever, but how enjoyable will it be to go out on great dates, great conversations and have to not have to doing something. Make it whether or not you guys, you'll be able to see a person for what they are. I can also say too, I get it, when people go out there like they have a good time with sipping on wine and stuff like that, but you need to be sober. Like, you really need to look at a person for who they are on the inside and the outside to see whether or not this person is really somebody that you can really see yourself engaging with for the rest of your life. Some of y'all are not sober, that you thought this person was a certain way, but you really didn't really think it because the whole time you were intoxicated when you were conversating with them. And so your memory of them is all blurred up because you weren't even on your A game enough to study this person, whether or not this person is something you want in your life. So anyway, I hope you guys took some of those notes. Because that's all I have to say today. Okay. I'm going to go in this house. I'm going to get me some Z's. And yeah, so good night.